Okay, so planning is very important. I think even though some people don't believe in it, I think you need to. It's a good idea to do a lot to plan your life out as best you can. This slide we talked about the path to your desired lifestyle, which is very important. And we talked about the way to achieve your desired lifestyle usually begins with education and training, which should lead to a job or business, which will give you an income, which will give you a standard of living. And then if you have extra money, you might want to reiterate the process. In other words, get more education, more training, so you get a better job or do a better job in your business to have more money to improve your standard of living. So that's the standard way to attain your desired lifestyle. But some people do it backwards. Some people say, well, I would like to have this level of life, and so I need this much money to live like the way I want to live. And then they ask themselves, well, what kind of job or business will give me that income level? And then where can I get the education or training to get that kind of job? And to be honest with you, most of the doctors that I've met are in that boat. They're actually, I suspect that most doctors go into medicine for the money. Okay, it's not that they necessarily want to be doctors, but this is kind of why they go into medicine. I think in many cases. Okay, good. I was looking for this thing here. Okay, but I don't know why it's like this. No, I wasn't. Let's see. What happened here? I'm still learning how to use this thing. There we go. Here. Okay. Okay, that's good. I don't know what this is. Ooh. Okay. Okay, that's good. Okay, so enough said about that. This SWOT analysis that we talked about earlier, that's very important. The main thing here is that you want to identify your strengths and match them with opportunities to make a living, to make money. So you need to make a list of your strengths and then ask yourself in your marketplace, what opportunities are out there for you to make a living, right? And of course, now the marketplace is very big now. Used to be the marketplace was just your vicinity or your community, your neighborhood, but now the marketplace is worldwide because of the internet. So that's the key thing here. This one we talked about staying out of trouble, the social pyramid we talked about. Most of the social pyramid, folks, is as you know, is driven by education level. So the more education you have, generally speaking, you're going to be higher up in the social pyramid, and that's the way it works. It's partly structured because that's the way it's structured, but it's also more educated people who can be creative and create new ways of doing things in a better way. Right? Most things today are driven by the human mind, including airplanes and nuclear weapons and smartphones, and just about everything is driven by the human mind. So that's why education is being rewarded so highly. Although some of it is, of course, also structural. Okay. We talked about family wealth percentiles and how since 1963, the gap between the rich and the poor has grown immensely. So in 1963, there was a substantial gap between the rich and the poor, but it was not humongous like it is today. In 1963, the top 1% of the United States had $1.5 million. If you had in 1963, if you had $1.5 million, you were in the top 1% of the United States. Today, that's no longer the case. Today, the people in the top 1%, in some cases, are billionaires, and the people at the bottom, in the bottom 10%, have nothing besides debt. So the disparity between the wealthy and the poor has grown tremendously, unfortunately. So that's that's kind of a warning, right? To you, like you're trying to in a sense, you're trying to become as wealthy as you can, as quickly as possible, to secure your future, within legal and ethical and moral means. I hope, okay, hopefully, because if you start breaking the law, you'll end up like the former CEO of Ocean, right? You could in prison and on the run. Okay, we talked about personality, habits. We talked about the myth of Sisyphus. That was important. That if you don't save and invest for your future, you're going to end up like Sisyphus. Which the myth of Sisyphus is that Sisyphus would have to. He was punished by the Greek gods, and every morning Sisyphus would have to push a boulder up a mountain, and by the evening, he had the boulder at the top of this mountain. And then for some reason, the boulder would slide down the mountain. And the next day he had to do it all over again. And he had to do this day, every day of his life, okay? And this is kind of like a job. This is like work, right? If you don't save and invest for your future, you're gonna end up like Sisyphus. Like every morning you get up and you push that rock up the mountain to make a living. And then in the evening, the rock boulder rolls down the hill, and then you do it again the next morning, like for the rest of your life. Okay, so that's why that slide is here. Okay, you want to work, save, and invest so that eventually your money's working for you rather than you working for more money. Okay, this is about if you fall down, get up again as many times as you need to. Okay, we have about 79 slides. Let me do the math, quick math here. Where's my calculator? Okay. Calculator. So it's basically 11. We can go to 1, so we got about 60. Yeah, about 60 minutes times 2 hours. We got about 120 minutes, and maybe another 30 minutes plus 30 minutes. We got about 150 minutes, and we're on slide, and we got 69 slides, divided by 69 slides. So we get about 2 minutes a slide. Oh my God, that's not too much. Okay, so we got about 2 minutes slides. Okay, so this is just basically, this is a Japanese expression that says that no matter how many times you fall down, just get up again. Just get up again and keep going. I don't know if I can pin myself. Let me see. So, myself. This gets me. Okay. Slide 11. System theory. The idea here is that everything is connected to everything else. And whatever you do in one area is going to affect other areas of your life. So, for example, your education is going to affect your career. And your career is going to affect your income. And your income is going to affect your standard of living, right? And the way you live can impact your lifestyle and so forth. So things tend to be connected, right? Which means that you have to be careful what you do, what you say and what you do, because there's a systems-wide impact that that can come back and affect you as well. Okay. Okay, this is a new slide, so we'll skip this one. What do you really want? Okay, this one we talked about how to feel better when you're not feeling well. Okay, we talked about that. this new slide. That health is composed of at least these 5 things, right? Physical health, mental health, emotional health, social health, and spiritual health. And so at least component. Oops. Okay. Okie dokie. And let's see. Okay, so I guess the idea here is you want to make sure that you take care of your physical health and your mental health, your emotional health, your social health, meaning that human beings are social creatures, so we need some friends, we need some family, we need some friends, we need some kind of social life, okay, to feel well. And also probably some spiritual well-being. That doesn't necessarily mean religion or formal religion, but some kind of spiritual connection, I think. Okay. And this is about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And asks, what are your views regarding Maslow's hierarchy of needs? How does this apply to your life? And he talks about, this is the expanded version, okay? This is the new version. And deficiency needs and growth needs. So the deficiency needs include things like physical needs, safety needs, belonging, and love needs and esteem. And the growth needs have to do with cognitive, right? Your intellectual growth and aesthetic needs, like the need for beauty, like who doesn't want a beautiful car, okay, or a beautiful house, or a beautiful neighborhood, right? And then self-actualization means to be all that you can be. Usually when people refer, or used to, last century, meaning like before 1999, before the year 2000, when people talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and self-actualization, they usually refer to Pablo Picasso. Pablo Picasso was probably the most important painter of the 20th century, and they would use it as an example of self-actualization because he was a painter, which is what he wanted to do, paint paintings, right? And he was fabulously successful and also very rich. Okay, painting stuff, right? So what more can you ask for? To me, another example of this is the guitar player Carlos Santana. I mean, he, as a teenager, he decided he wanted to be a guitar player, and that's all he's done is for the most part his whole life, and become fabulously wealthy and fabulously successful. So that's both of those examples, I think, are good examples of self-actualization. And then the last one, the transcendence, means that's something new. That's not something that was included, that Maslow included in his hierarchy of needs. But transcendence means that you want to go beyond who you are. And most people transcend through their children, to be honest with you. That's how they achieve transcendence. But there are other ways to transcend, right? You transcend by devoting yourself to your country or to a cause or to helping other people. Teachers, oftentimes we transcend by helping our students, right? We go beyond who we are by helping others, right? Okay, so let's go next slide. And we only have like 2 minutes per slide, so I have to go kind of quickly and skip some of them. We talked about self-affirmations and working hard, working smart, and your life expectancy, talking about that, and the arc of life. Talk about that. And lifelong plan, creating a life. I think this is very important. You want to create a lifelong plan so that you're, because the lifelong plan becomes like a roadmap for you. Like, okay, you're heading this in a certain direction, so that when you get to your 80s, your vision became a reality, and you achieve your mission, and hopefully you achieved most of your goals, right? And it kind of goes, because that's kind of the end result, the end outcome. right? And but every decade presents different challenges and different goals for you, right, along the way. And so work on this lifelong plan. So you have a guide or a roadmap to get to where you want to be with your life. The mindset, yeah, you in a rich country like the United States, many people can become millionaires. We have about 10 million millionaires in the United States and over 600 billionaires. But if you want me to help you become a millionaire, I'm not the person to ask that, okay? I cannot help you with that part. You'd have to ask like Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett if you want. If you want to become a billionaire, you need to ask them because I cannot help you with it, unfortunately. Okay. Delaying gratification, having three scenarios. I think it's very important to have at least three scenarios in your life for whatever, for your life, for different things. A baseline scenario, what's likely to happen, and an optimistic scenario and a pessimistic scenario. And we know that in California, the baseline scenario for you as college students and college graduates is that you're probably in the next 40 years, you're going to make in the next 40 years, okay? And so that you can expect that. That's likely to happen. If you don't do well, and all you can find are minimum wage jobs, then your pessimistic scenario, that'll be the pessimistic scenario, okay? You can't find a full-time job, all you find is part-time jobs, or you're just, all you can find is minimum wage work. Your pessimistic scenario that's about the worst you can do, unless you get sick or something. Okay, but that would be, I think, a pessimistic scenario. Now, the optimistic scenario is up to you, right? It could, it would certainly be more than $2 million in the next 40 years, but it could be in the billions. It could be in the multi-millions. It could be in the billions of dollars if you can perform at the level of, let's say, Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg is in California, right? Or Kobe Bryant. Well, when Kobe Bryant passed away, he passed away with $600 million, more than $500 million. So that's up to you. That depends on your performance. Okay. So the optimistic scenario, the sky's the limit, but it depends on your performance and the people who you work with, your spouse and so on. And then this one we talked about that life is kind of like you can divide life into two parts, right? Before you retire and after you retire. So think about that. And now usually most Americans retire at age 62, but they retire at 62 because they need the money, to be honest with you. That's why they retire at 60. It's better to wait, till you get full retirement, which would right now is 67. And women, if you're in good health, you may want to wait till 70 to retire, just to squeeze more out of the system, to get more bigger monthly checks so in your retirement. But that supposes that you're in good health, right? If you're not in good health, then you probably want to take your retirement pension, your Social Security or your pension as early as possible. Okay. And might need to retire. The idea here is that it's a kind of strategy, and the strategy is that you probably want to work in a rich country like the United States or a rich region like California to make as much money as possible. And then depending on your results and depending on your preferences and depending on how you want to live, what kind of lifestyle you want to have, you may want to relocate to a region or a country where the cost of living is lower than in California, right? To up your standard of living and your quality of life, right? That's the kind of strategy. Many Americans are doing that. Many Californians are doing that. They're leaving California and they're moving to Texas or Florida or Arizona or Las Vegas or whatever, to up their standard of living, quality of life, right? And in some cases, they live in the United States. They're going to Mexico or Costa Rica or some other country to where the cost of living is less, and with the same amount of dollars, live a much better quality of life than they could here in California. So that's the kind of strategy. Yeah. Some students, they want to stay, many students want to stay in California, which is fine, but you know, if you want to stay in California, you need quite a bit of money after you retire. And this will be your magic retirement number to figure out how much money, how much net worth do you need to be able to retire in California as opposed to somewhere else. Okay. And let's see. This a little bit here. Oops. Okay, save it. Okay, again, you know, if you want to stay in California after retire, meaning that you're not really working anymore, or you're not working at all anymore, in California, if you want to have a fairly good life, you probably need somewhere close to $1 million if you don't have Social Security and you're on a pension. So that's a kind of big number, okay, for most people. But if you're willing to move to another country, then for men, in most countries, 300,000 will do it. You can have an average life in most countries with 300,000 for the rest of your life after you retire. Women more. Women, you probably need around 400,000. Okay, so it makes it a little bit easier. But try to stick it up in California if you don't have a pension, Social Security. We talked about when can you retire and your income to need ratio and joint happiness. Flowers. Let's see, 9:30. And gratitude. Yeah, the importance of having gratitude and the yin and the yang. And estimate lifetime earnings. This slide is kind of, I think, pretty important because you're trying to figure out how much money are you likely to make in California versus some other place. Okay. Here in this slide, we compare United States and California, and it's pretty close. I mean, you're going to make somewhat more money in California than in the United States in general, but it's not that big of a difference. However, if you move to an average country, and an average country would be like Mexico or Argentina or China, you're not going to make as much money, okay? On average, depends on the person, but generally speaking, no, because the per capita GDP average in the world is about $11,000 a little bit more. I forgot the exact number. By $11,000 a year is the worldwide average per capita. Okay, in dollars. So if you multiply by 40 years, that means the average person on the planet is going to make no, they won't even make $500,000. Not even $500,000 during their whole life. And this is average countries like Mexico, Argentina, China. People in those average countries, Turkey is another one, they will not make $500,000 during their lifetime on average. Okay, so that's a concern, right? That's a concern because in California, you're going to make about $2 million, which means you're going to make about $1.5 million more than the world average. So that's something to think about. Of course, you have to sacrifice some things. Okay. If you want to make, let's say, $1.5 million more, or have a per capita GDP of $1.5 million more than the average person on the planet, you're going to have to sacrifice maybe your country of origin, your culture, your mother tongue, to some extent your family, to some extent your friends. It comes at a price. It comes at a price. So you have to decide if it's worth it. And the difference, here on this slide, we compare the United States projected income differential between the United States and the world average. And well, it used to be that most people lived as couples, but now about half of American adults are singles. So, you know, our divorce rate is about 50%, and about half of American adults are single. It's, the United States is not what it used to be. But as an individual, you're gonna make about $1.5 million more than the average person on the planet. Okay, but if you're in a couple, in a situation of a couple, which half Americans are still couples, half American adults are couples, then the difference is about $3 million. And that's a big difference. That's a huge difference. So you have to decide, is it worth it to you, you know, to sacrifice your country of origin, your mother tongue, to some extent your family, because you can travel to visit your family members, they can travel to visit you, but you're not in constant contact with them, and sacrifice your old friends for $3 million. Is it worth it to you or not? I don't know. This is your call. This is your life. Okay. And that's kind of what this slide's about, the cost and benefits, right? Everything has a cost, and every benefit has a cost. And the question is the benefit worth the cost to you or not? That's up to you. Okay. Okay, this is my first slide. Here we're talking about financial net worth. So financial, you know, I hate to say this, but I think in a way the name of the game of life is to build your financial net worth as large as possible, as quickly as possible, you know, mostly to secure your future. And financial net worth is defined as your assets, which is is anything that you can liquefy into cash minus your liabilities. And then that gives you your financial net worth in dollar terms, in money. Okay. And you want to build that as quickly as possible so that your retirement is comfortable and safe and secure and tranquil and peaceful and enjoyable, like that. Okay. And of course, you want to do this within legal and moral, ethical means. Okay. I think that's probably a good idea. But this is very important. Sometimes people ask, well, what is life about? You know, well, life, to be honest with you, life doesn't, what's the meaning of life? To be honest with you, I think life there's no meaning to life. You have to give your life meaning. But I think from a practical point of view, the meaning of life is to build your net worth as large as possible, as quickly as possible, to protect your future. I think that's kind of the end of the game. Okay. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. That's true. You want to hold your cost down as much as you can, and maximize your income as much as possible, so you can save and invest, so that at some point your investments are taking care of you instead of you chasing a job, you know, chasing a paycheck, let's say. Okay, the KISS method. Yeah, keep it simple. Okay, you want to keep things as simple as possible, right? I think so. That's a good idea. In my experience. This one we talked about ownership versus minimalism. The idea, this is a new minimalism is kind of a new idea. It's probably 10 years or less, I think, in existence. And the idea here is that you want to buy and own as few things as possible so that you can take your money and invest it, okay, and make it grow, right? And so that you can become a wealthy person who is living a comfortable lifestyle without having to work anymore, right? Or at least not having to do a job. I mean, you might still be working at something you love, right? Painting famous paintings like Pablo Picasso, or playing these beautiful songs to large audiences like Carlos Santana. You might want to do that kind of work, right? But you're not a job that you hate, or a job where you're like a slave, right? Like that, you don't want that. So to avoid that, right? To avoid becoming a slave to a job that you hate, you need to have money that will provide for you, so you don't have to do a slavery kind of job. Meaning a slavery job. By slavery job, I mean a job where you're going to because you have to go, despite the fact that you don't want to go, and maybe you detest going to. Okay, okay. So that's the idea there. Okay, is everything temporary? Yeah, well, yeah, everything's temporary. And appreciate. Okay, that's important. The idea here is that you want to invest your money in things that appreciate, things that will increase your net worth. Okay, and like houses, real estate, apartment buildings, shopping malls, stock market, bonds, index funds, exchange traded funds, annuities. You want to invest your money in assets that will appreciate, okay? And what you don't want to do is you don't want to invest your money in things that are going to depreciate your net worth. Things like brand new cars, okay, $10,000 handbags, things that will lose value, right? Those are not good investments for your future. They might be fun, they might be nice to have, but they're not good investments for your future. Again, it depends on, on your family background. If you come from a wealthy family, this is all entertainment, okay? It's just theory and talk and discussion and strategy if you come from a wealthy family. Because if you come from a family that's a multimillionaire or billionaire, it's good to know these concepts, but they're not as relevant as they are for people who don't come from wealthy families. And here we talk about separating your needs and your wants, right? Because the things that you need, you have to spend money on the things you need, right? Food, liquids, some clothing, some furniture, reasonable shelter. Those are things you need. So reasonable transportation, right? But you want to separate the things you need from the things you want. Because the things you want, you don't need, okay? Like, who wouldn't want a Lamborghini, for example? Who wouldn't want a $10 million home, right? Everybody wants it, but you don't need it. Okay. Cost versus profit. Okay, this is a very important slide. And here in D, there's a formula that reads income minus cost equals profit or loss. So this is a very, very important formula. You want to, first of all, minimize your costs, right? You don't want, especially rent. For most people, the biggest expense is housing. So you want to minimize your costs as much as is reasonable, okay? And you want to maximize your income, including having multiple sources of income. You want as much money coming into your household as possible from different sources, maybe from yourself or from your significant other, whatever and at the same time minimize your cost to generate a profit. And then that profit, you want to invest it to make your net worth grow, so that at some point your investments are providing for you, and you're not running around chasing a paycheck. Okay, and of course, if your costs are very high and your income is low, or you lose your income, then you're going to be instead of making a profit, you're going to be generating a loss, which is not good. that is not something sustainable over the long term. Okay, next slide. So the idea here is that you want to avoid becoming a debt slave as much as possible. I mean, there's some things that, you know, we can't help, okay, unfortunately. There's some debt that we have to assume. For most Americans, a mortgage, which is debt, is necessary because the average home price in California right now is about $750,000. So how many Californians have $750,000 to buy a house cash? Not many, okay? So you have to take out a mortgage, okay? Automobile, you don't need a new automobile, and you certainly don't need a new luxury automobile. That's not necessary. You need reasonable transportation. I mean, you don't want to be driving a car that's breaking down all the time. And you probably don't want to be driving a little car like those so-called smart cars, right? Because little cars can be dangerous. If you're on the freeway with a little car and you get hit by a tractor trailer, you won't be able to tell that story to your grandchildren. Right? So you want reasonable transportation, but you don't need a luxury car, and you certainly don't need a new luxury car, because those things will turn you into a debt slave, okay? Including a mortgage. Mortgages have to be paid month over month. So mortgages kind of turn into a kind of debt slave. But in California, real estate will produce an income for you year over year at a rate of about 7% a year. So it's a kind of good debt. Where's your peace of mind? Yeah. No, it's how depending on how you do financially, you're either going to have worries or you have peace of mind. And I think you want to have peace of mind. Okay, I think so. But that peace of mind, you need to be sure that you have all your expenses covered one way or another, right? Because if you don't have all your expenses covered, meaning your rent, your food, utility, your transportation, your healthcare, dental care, you don't have that covered, you're gonna be worried. But if you have a large net worth or a reasonably large net worth, then your net worth will help you to cover a lot of those expenses. Okay, this slide we talk about what is success or failure. And there's different types of successes and different levels of successes. But tell me about that. What does this mean to you? Success. How are we doing time? We got a couple hours. Let me see. Back to my calculator. Do 60 times 2 minutes, and we gotta do 34 slides divided by 34. 3 minutes. Okay. Oh, we got about 3.5 minutes per slide. Okay. And we talked about the causes of poverty, how to avoid poverty. Really, maybe I should change the title of this slide to how to avoid poverty. How to avoid it. And how to avoid it. Ooh. Okay. It's too big. Let's go to small 28. So, you know, most people on planet Earth are either poor or very poor, or kind of poor. That's at least half of the time. So I don't think poverty is a good condition to be in. So you want to try to avoid it. And so these are some of the causes of poverty, and also how to avoid poverty. Your lifestyle, expenses, estimated cost of a child. Okay, so this is a big one. This is a tough slide because on the one hand, you're trying to minimize your cost. On the other hand, there's no reason for you not to have a child or two. Yeah. But you have to kind of budget for a child. I know it sounds terrible. That should be budgeting for a child, but you actually do have to budget for a child. You have to be in your budget. And again, in the next 40 years, you're going to make about $2 million. And if you have a partner, after taxes, you're going to make about $3.5 million between you and your spouse. And a child is going to cost you at least $250,000. So you can afford 1 or 2 children. Maybe you could afford more than 2, but the more children you have, the more expenses you're going to have. So you got to think about it. Okay, and what that implies for you and your lifestyle, and for your child and their lifestyle. Okay, rental expense. Oh boy, this is terrible. So if you rent for the next 40 years in Orange County or LA, well, Orange County, after 40 years of renting, you will have spent about $1 million on rental payments. Okay. And you'll never see that money again. You can kiss it goodbye. Okay. So that's a problem. That's a real problem that you want to avoid. So you want to get into your first property as soon as possible. That's one of the better problems. Okay. What's this? Oh, I don't know what I did. Okay. Income statement. An income statement is just a standard business document, and you want to become familiarized with, and you want to have some practice using. Okay. So the income statement is comprised of your revenues, minus your expenses, have a net income. And that's it. Actuals and projected or pro forma. We talked about socioeconomic status and the 4 components, which include education, occupation, income, and your assets. And it's a way of assessing yourself. You know, how are you doing, education-wise, job-wise, income-wise, asset-wise. But since most of you are single, there's also another way, a way of assessing potential life partners. You know, of course, everybody wants a sexy partner, right? Hot, nice looking, whatever. But that's not enough. Okay, that won't pay the bills. So when you're considering somebody as a life partner, you may also want to look at these factors, right? So education level, their occupation, their income, what assets they're bringing to the table. Okay. And that's a continuation of the previous slide. Of course, you want somebody who cares about you, who loves you, who wants to take care of you, who wants to be with you for the rest of their life. But that's probably one important thing. But these other factors, practical factors like education, occupation, income, assets, I think are also part of the equation. They will affect the relationship. Balance sheet. Yeah, this is like your standard business document, and it's just a snapshot of your net worth at a given day, and it's comprised of your assets, which are things that you can liquefy, minus your liabilities, which are things that you owe, and then it tells you what your net worth is, or what you hope your net worth to be in the future. Okay, when to plan to trade? Well, the idea here is that you want to start investing as early as you can. And I realize it's not easy, okay? Especially when you're young. You have a lot of expenses when you're young. Because you have to buy clothing, and you need to get a car. You need to buy some furniture. Maybe you need to buy your first property, like that. But you want to start investing in a house or the stock market or bonds or some investment instrument as soon as possible and give it time to grow. Investing to become wealthy. Okay, this slide we found out that if you're 20 years old, you need to invest $9 a day every day until age 65, and you will retire with $1 million if you're 20 years old. $9 a day. But the longer you wait, the more money you need to invest on a daily basis or monthly basis. So that's a concern. It's a big concern, actually. Okay, productivity wealth. Mainly that more productive people tend to have more money. The best example of that today is, of course, China. Work ethic and habits, assessing your work, making the best of how you use your time, that's important. Okay, and here we went to the Social Security Administration to find out how long you'd like to live and how many days you have left to go. Most of you are pretty young, maybe around 30 or less. So you have quite a few days left, but they go fast. Okay, this is very important. So how do you become millionaire or wealthy? I'm just using the term millionaire, but really what it means is wealthy. Become wealthy. Wealthy. Change to wealthy. Oops. Okay, save. Okay, so how do you become wealthy? Well, formula for becoming wealthy. Okay. So we go. Okay, so this formula is very, very important. It's also a very powerful formula, okay? And as I mentioned before, to be honest with you, once you know this formula, you're set to go. You don't need anything else. I mean, you need an education to get a job and get a decent job, maybe get a good job. That's why you need an education. But even if you don't have a good education, if you understand this formula, you can apply it, you can become wealthy. Okay? That's 3 parts. You need to invest money. It's very hard to get. Time, 1 plus the rate of return. And that can be tricky. Okay. So you want to invest your money in investment instruments that will give you the highest rate of return with as little risk as possible. Time. You need time to compound your growth. That's it. That's all you need to know. I think that if young people were taught this formula. In high school or middle school or elementary school, you could eliminate a lot of the poverty in the world. Because people would know, okay, I need to work and save so that I can invest to get the highest rate of return possible with as little risk as possible. And then I need time to make that money grow. That's it. That's it. But it's a very powerful form. Okay. Urgent versus important. We talked about separating things into urgent versus important. Multiple sources. This is very important. Okay. Today, about almost half of Americans no longer have a full-time job, no longer have full benefits, no longer have a retirement pension. So given the situation, the scenario, one of the ways to address the situation is to have multiple sources of income. Have coming in from money coming in from different places. So that's about the only thing half Americans can do these days. They have 2 jobs, or 3 jobs, or 4 jobs, and if they're in a stable relationship, each partner might have 2 or 3 or 4 jobs, right, to make it. Oh, this is about doubling your money. Okay, that's kind of interesting. How long would you take it to double your money? It depends on the rate of return. So the rate of return is important in that regard, in terms of doubling your money. Let's see how we're doing time-wise. At 35 slides. 120 minutes divided by 35 slides. About 3 minutes over. The power of compounding interest is very important. The idea here is that you want to invest as much money as you can, as early as possible, to allow your money to grow. So at some point, you become a wealthy person, and you're no longer working for a paycheck, but rather your investments are producing income for you while you're at home, relaxing. Some cards like this is an interesting site. This was something one of our Chinese students shared with us. And how are you going to play your cards? Depending on what cards you get. Some people get really good cards, you know. Some people get terrible cards. So, like for example, if you let's say you were born in Bel Air, and your mother was Hillary Clinton, your father was Barack Obama, you had great health. You got a doctor of medicine degree, and you had great vision. You have a very good day. All right, so your life will be quite good. On the other hand, if you're born in a poor country, maybe you don't have a mother, you don't have a father, you have some kind of health issue, you have no education, you don't have a vision to speak of, your life will be very difficult. Okay. Design your future. Okay. The idea here is that even if you're born in a poor country to a poor family, despite the obstacles, you can't go back and fix them, but you can fix the future. I think it was Bill Gates who said that if you're born poor, it's not your fault, but if you die poor, that's your fault. Okay, that's kind of true, especially in the rich countries. The poor countries, it's very hard to not die poor, but in the rich countries, This is pretty much what Bill Gates said. Okay, this slide was about forecasting your likely results. These are some factors that could have an impact on your career results and your financial results. And tell me about that. What do you think? You know, if you're born to a rich family, in a rich city, region, or country, and you work, let's say, in medicine, or maybe IT, and you have a doctoral degree, or at least an MBA, and maybe you're male, and certain ethnic groups have done better than others. If you're a member of one of these very successful ethnic groups, your results are probably going to be quite good. Okay, are quite good. On the other hand, if you're born to a poor family, in a poor city, or poor region, or poor country, and you choose an industry or field of work where there's not too much demand, and you never finished elementary school, and maybe you belong to an ethnic group that's not particularly successful, then chances are your life is going to be kind of hard. Okay. Unfortunately, that's kind of the way work goes. This slide, we ask you to identify the people who are helping you, people who might hurt you, and the people who are just playing. You think they're your friends, but they're not. You think they're your family, but they're not there for you. Identify them, put them in the category. Then you know what you're dealing with. Okay. Especially at work. At work, that's very important. This slide provides some examples of people who have done phenomenally well in certain industries, like the stock market or software, computers, retail, social media, online sales, and real estate. Warren Buffett, of course, he recommends to buy good stocks and hold them long term. Some people, I suppose, could make money in software with a good program. It might be kind of hard, more difficult, but because you have to need a lot of investment. Retail, maybe, especially online retail business. Social media, maybe. Sales, maybe, online business. And real estate. Okay, so this is the real estate part of the assignment. And from my reading, most wealthy Americans made their fortune in real estate. And in this slide, I enumerate some of the reasons why that's the case. That everybody needs a place to live, and your mortgage, about half your mortgage deposits within your account over time. Prices in California appreciate a rate of about 7% a year, which is higher than inflation. And home prices generally rise. That's very important. Let me put this on pause. Maybe the most relevant one is number three, that home prices in California have risen year over year for many, many years, especially last year. Last year, home prices in California rose to a whopping rate of 23%. And you ask yourself, where else can you get a 23% return on your money? Sure, not the banks. So this is why many Americans built, especially many Californians, have built their financial base in real estate. In the 1960s, the average home price in California was about $20,000. And the average or median home price in Orange County today is about $1 million. So it gives you a sense of the rate of appreciation of real estate in Orange County. And again, if your parents had bought a home back in the 1960s for, let's say, $20,000, and they were good real estate investors, their home today, the home they would be living in today might be worth $1 million on average, okay. And at some point you might inherit that property. Oh, okay, so again, we were talking about real estate prices in California. We're down to about 90 minutes. We don't have too many slides to go. Okay, so we're doing pretty good. Time-wise, we're doing pretty good. We have about 90 minutes. And divided by 10 slides, let's say 10 slides, 9 slides, divided by 9 slides. We got about 10. Oh, okay, we're doing pretty well. Okay, so again, we were talking about real estate prices, and that the average home price in California in the 1960s was about $20,000, and the average median home price in Orange County just broke $1 million. So, this is why so many people have made a fortune in real estate. Depending on how aggressive you are, Donald Trump is probably, when it comes to real estate, Donald Trump is not my favorite guy, okay? Don't get me wrong. I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump, but when it comes to real estate, he's probably the best, or one of the best. But he plays big numbers, right? And he's made something like $6 billion in real estate. It depends on how big you're willing to play or can play. Okay, we talked about the power of leveraging and how that can be very helpful. This is a very important slide. The idea here in real estate, especially, it could work in other fields too, okay? But as I mentioned, my field is, I'm a teacher by profession, but I'm a real estate investor as well, is that you take a relatively small investment, which would be the fulcrum here, to take possession of a large asset. To have that asset placed under your name with the expectation that the asset will appreciate. And when the asset appreciates, so does your net worth. Okay, so, and it's probably worth doing an example. Let's say you bought the average home in Orange County, which today is now at about $1 million, so you can believe that. Okay, and the minimum down payment you need to take on a mortgage loan in California is 3%, unless you're a service person, or maybe if you can qualify for a HUD program. Okay, but that's kind of unusual. Most Californians take out conventional mortgage loans, and the minimum down payment is 3%. So I'll multiply the $1 million by 0.3, which is the average home price. So you need about $30,000 down payment to get into a $1 million home in Orange County. Okay, plus closing costs. So, which probably about another 10,000. But let's just focus on down payment. So you put down $30,000, right, to take possession of $1 million home. Right, so now you don't own the home. Okay, all you did was give the down payment that you gave between you and your spouse. Right, you put $30,000 down. Right, and now this $1 million home is in your name. It reads, Susie Nguyen, okay, Steve Kim, right? The house is registered under your name, okay, with a $30,000 down payment. But let's say last year home prices in California rose by 23%. And I think there's a good chance that this year they're going to rise another 23%, because the Federal Reserve Board has stated that they are not going to increase interest rates until maybe the beginning of 2023, because they're afraid of what higher interest rates might, what the negative impact that higher interest rates might have on the economy. So they don't want to raise interest rates. One. Number two, we have about a 5 million home shortage in the United States, and about 12 to 20% of those homes are here in California. So that means in California we have a home shortage of almost 1 million homes. We need another 1 million homes to stabilize the real estate market. but we cannot build a million homes. We haven't been able to build a million homes in decades, so how are we going to build a million homes in a year? It's not possible. Okay, so the lower interest rates mean low monthly payments, and that creates demand. And the housing shortage means that the supply is inadequate, means low supply. So low supply, high demand, prices are likely to increase. So let's say you bought $1 million, you put $30,000 down, you took possession of $1 million home, which is the average and median price in Orange County these days. And let's say your home went up 23% from between this year and next year. Okay, so we multiply it by 1.23. So that means within a year, you will have made about $230,000 in 1 year. So you put 30% down, right, which is down payment, and to have that $1 million asset placed in your name, and when that asset appreciates, you profit commensurately. That's how it works. Okay, working against the market. This we talked about how to work against the market, and we talked about that investors have the hope of making money, and then they feel greed when they see prices going up, and when the prices are going down, they get scared, and they feel fear, and they sometimes bail out at the bottom. Sometimes they buy at the top, and they sell at the bottom, and then they have regrets. You're not going to do that, okay? What you're going to do, the way to play against the market is you want to buy at the bottom, okay? Whatever the investment instruments, house, stock, bond, whatever it is, okay, whatever it is, gold. You want to buy at the bottom, usually during a recession, and then you wait, right? Now, when prices are at the bottom, people don't want to get in because they're scared. They're like, oh no, this is not working out, okay? But I believe it's Warren Buffett said that you want to buy when there's blood in the streets. In other words, when people are losing their homes, losing their stock market investments or whatever, at the bottom, you want to buy at the bottom, and then wait for an expansion, prices will increase. And when you get to the top of the market, you may want to get out and walk away with as much profit as you possibly can. Now, in the real estate field, in most investments, you usually want to hold as much as you can. This is one of the big recommendations on Warren Buffett. He said, buy good stocks at a fair price and hold them. The same with real estate, okay? So you want to buy a property and you want to hold it through the business cycle, right? Through the peaks and the troughs, the ups and the downs, because the trend, will be up. So again, if your parents had bought a home in the 1960s, maybe they might have paid around $20,000 for their home, and today, the home that your parents might be in today is worth about $1 million in Orange County. Okay, so that's the way it works. So oftentimes you want to hold to your investment over the long term, right? Because the long-term trend will be up, especially in real estate. Okay, and again, you can do this. You can go through this process. These peaks and valleys. The time between peak and peak, or between valley and valley, is about 10 years. Might be a little more, a little less, but roughly 10 years. So you can do this about 5 times during your lifetime. In your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s, about 5 times. You can go through this process. And after 40 years or so, you should be in a very strong financial position. Okay. Now, some people, they do this with multiple properties, okay? Because we usually only do it 2. Like we have rental and we live one, and we flip them. We go from one to the other like that to avoid the capital gains tax. Some people don't care. They're like, I don't care about that. They're willing to pay the capital gains tax. So they buy multiple properties, which is a strategy, but you have to be pretty resilient and pretty strong to do this. They buy 5 homes or 10 homes or 20 homes like that. And they just work them to make a profit. And when they bail out, they'll have a big capital gain tax bill to cover, but they will also have to make tons of money if you want to do it. Okay, We talked about the 8 sources of income and passive income, coming up with passive income, right? And these are some of the sources of passive income. Social Security, a pension, 401k, mutual funds, annuity, index funds, exchange traded funds, and maybe a rental. Rental is not completely passive, okay, compared to these others, but it's pretty passive. We've been landlords for many years, and I can tell you of the different properties that we rented. I don't think I went to any of the properties, not even once a month. Maybe twice a year. I think so. Nah, sometimes I would go more often because I wanted to do stuff like fix this, fix that. But I mean, where the renter called me and said, you need to fix this or that, probably twice a year. Okay? That's it. Like, you know, this broke or that broke. Usually they break it. Okay? Usually the renters break something and then they want you to fix it for them. I'd say probably twice a year. Yeah, I would go maybe once a month because I wanted to upgrade something, you know, fix something, or make it better. But you don't have to. So those are all passive. Now, if once you're retired, you're not working anymore. If all these sources of passive income are not sufficient to cover your needs, then you might have to run a business, right? Maybe an online business, an online store, something like that. And if that's not enough, then you might have to go back to work. Okay, they call that the rat race. You might have to join the rat, get back in the rat race, meaning fight traffic on the freeways, go to work, have problems at work, have the customers yell at you, have your boss chastise you, all these things. You're trying to avoid those things, okay, in a way. Maybe not completely, but when you retire, I preferably don't want to be working, okay? And if you have a business, you want to be a business that you enjoy, okay? After retirement. Okay, FIRE. Okay, it's a new slide. So the FIRE stands for Financially Independent Retire Early. Okay, and FIRE, I should say FIRE movement. It's called FIRE movement. FIRE. Okay, and this is also kind of a new movement. It's been around probably less than 10 years. And the idea here is that you want to become financially independent so that you can retire early. Okay, so most people cannot do this. Okay, Kobe Bryant could do it. When Kobe Bryant retired, he had about $600 million to his name. He's done, right? I mean, he's financially independent. He can retire at 36. Okay, so in a way, you may want to join this movement in a way, right? You want to get to be financially independent, meaning that you don't need to work anymore to cover your expenses, right? Your investments are supporting you instead of you working in the rat race. So what do you think? What do you think about this? Okay, I can tell you most Americans cannot do this. Most Americans retire at age 62, and I think mostly because they need the money. They need the Social Security checks. But it depends on the person and your performance. Oh, okay, this is about early retirement and how can you retire early? Again, most Americans cannot retire early. Okay, it's not possible. I've had students tell me they want to retire at 30 or 32 or something. That's not possible. Because after you retire, you still have to pay rent, you still have to buy food, you still have to pay transportation, you have to pay for healthcare, dental care. So it's not realistic. But most Americans can retire somewhat earlier than 62, okay, depending on your net worth. Now, the average American has a net worth of about $100,000. And if you are willing to relocate to a country where the cost of living is less than in California, you could retire earlier than 62, okay? So I picked mid-level countries like Argentina or Mexico or China as an example. And the per capita GDP in Mexico and Argentina is about $10,000 a year. Now that doesn't mean people are making $10,000 a year. Okay, that includes everything: the freeways, the highways, the streets, the lighting, all that. Okay, but we'll use that as a figure to guide us. So if you're willing to have an average life in most countries, from Argentina south, you could do so with probably less than $10,000 a year. You can have an average life in most countries. Okay, and if you have a net worth of $100,000, meaning that you sold everything you had, you paid your debts, and you have $100,000 cash money, you could invest that money in an index fund or an exchange traded fund or some investment instrument that gives you a decent rate of return with as little risk as possible. And then you could relocate to Mexico, Argentina, or China, or another country, and slowly spend down that money that makes up your net worth. Okay, and if you're spending, let's say, you have a net worth of 100,000, you're spending $10,000 a year, it would take you 10 years to go through all that money. Okay, and at 62, your Social Security payments would kick in. And the minimum Social Security right now in the United States is about $10,000 a year. The average is about $20,000. Okay, some people make more than $20,000, get more than $20,000 a year from Social Security, but that's a relatively small number of people who make tons of money and contribute tons of money to the Social Security fund. So I think it's safer to guide ourselves by the minimum and the average. Okay, so if you had $100,000 in net worth and you're willing to relocate to Mexico or Argentina or a similar country, or even less expensive country, you can spend $10,000 a year. Within 10 years, you would run out of money, and at 62, your Social Security checks would kick in. So 62 minus 10 years gives you 52. So most Americans could retire at the earliest, I think 52, if they're willing to relocate to a mid-level country or a country where the cost of living is substantially less than that in California. Okay, so that's the reference. Okay, then next slide is about income pyramid. And here the idea is that when you retire, whatever age that is, okay? Again, I don't want you to think that retirement is necessarily 62 or 67, okay? Retirement is when you're ready, financially ready, right? When you're financially ready, you can retire. For Kobe Bryant, it was 36. But again, he retired with $600 million. He could have retired earlier. But, you know, that was the age he was going to have. So your income pyramid is built from the bottom up, okay? So your foundation is Social Security, maybe a pension, individual retirement account, 401k, maybe mutual fund investments, index funds, exchange traded funds, bonds, stocks, commodities, annuities, and then real estate if you have rental. Okay. So those are all essentially passive sources of income. Well, up to annuity. I would say up to annuity is, meaning you don't have to do anything. You already invested the money in these invested instruments and they pay you month to month. Okay, you don't have to. All you have to do is check your statements and then take the money and invest it in the bank or spend it, right? Up to annuity. Real estate is kind of passive, pretty much passive, I would say, for the most part. Okay. Now, if all of these instruments that you invested in are not sufficient to cover your costs or your needs, then you might have to start selling some of them to generate a net worth, and then use your net worth to make it to the end of your life. Which, if you're a young man, you're talking into your 80s. The young folks in our men in our class are probably going to live well into their 80s. Well into your 80s, okay? And the young women are looking at something like 90. Okay? And again, if you retire at 62, you're looking at 20 to 30 years from retirement without working, right? And how are you going to pay your rent, your utilities, right? Your food, your transportation, your medical care, your dental care, vision care, I think, if you don't have enough income. So at that point, if all these passive sources of income are not sufficient, you might have to start selling them to convert them into net worth, and then use that net worth to make it to the end of your life. Okay, if that's not sufficient, okay, which could happen, then you might have to start a business. Okay? I can get this. You might have to start a business, and oops, it's too big. A little bit smaller. Okay, let me shrink this. Okay. Okay. So a little bit bigger. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let me see this. Save. Okay, one of those on this large. Because it's kind of tight. That's why I need to make it a little bit bigger. Net worth. Doing this. Something less part. Okay, file. Save. Okay. Okay. So that's the way it works. Okay. And again, retirement doesn't necessarily mean 62 or 67. It depends when you're ready, right? When you're ready, when you have enough money to cover all your expenses for the rest of your life, irrespective of your age. If you were Kobe Bryant and you retired at age 36 and you had a net worth of $600 million, okay, you're not worried about making it to the end of your life. That's not concerned. Let's do the math real quick. Of course, there are people more successful, one thing Kobe Bryant, like Michael Jordan. Okay, but Michael Jordan's I think $1.5 billion, but he didn't retire with that much money. He's made a fortune over the years. But Kobe Bryant, I believe, retired with about $600 million. 600,000, 600. Okay. So let's say you were Kobe Bryant, you're 36 years old, you have $600 million, and you're worried about making it to the end of your life. You're 36, you say, you tell yourself, I might live another 50 years. What if it's 55 years? Okay, well, let's say 90. So 90 minus 36 is 54 years. Okay, so I might make it to 90. Kobe Bryant, I'm 36, I might make it to 90. Men usually don't make it to 90, okay, but to be on the safe side, 90. So this $600 million has to last me 54 years because I don't want to run out of money. So you take the $600 million, divide by 54 years. So now you can spend, oh my God, $11 million a year. Okay, basically, like you could spend $1 million a month. Kobe Bryant could spend $1,000 a month, more or less, and he would never run. He would not run out of money until the end of his life. Had he lived to be an old man. So that's the way it works. Okay. So again, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to retire as an old person. It depends on your performance, your financial performance, your financial needs, and your lifestyle goals, how you want to live. Okay, that's what it depends. Okay. I know we should do another example. Well, I'm sure. Let's do one more example. Okay, let's say that let's say you retire, you retire with a net worth of $1 million. There's $1 million. Okay, let's say you're right now the full retirement age is. This is a more realistic example. Okay, the Kobe Bryant example is it's a dream. It's for most people. It's pie in the sky. You know, that's just that's a dream for most. But $1 million is possible. We have about 10 million Americans who have worth $1 million. Okay, this is doable. This is doable for you. Okay, you can do this. Okay, so let's say you're 67 and you retire with a net worth of $1 million. Depends if you're male or female. Okay, so we probably should do both the male case and the female case. So let's do the male case first. Okay, you're 67 and you figure, well, you might make it to 90. Probably not, okay? Most men, a lot of men die in their 60s, quite a few men die in their 70s. Not too many men make it to their 80s. Not too many. And I've never met a man who's 90. Never. Personally, never. I met a few men in their 80s, like 82, 83, my health care. I think 2 or 3 my whole life. I met men in their 80s, maybe 2 or 3 in my entire life. And I'm an older person. So most men don't make it to 80 something. Okay. So 90 is like almost impossible for men. So you're 67, you think, well, I might make it to 90. So that means 90 minus 67 is 23 years. So this $1 million has to last you 23 years. Okay, so you divide by 23 years. Oops, not by 23 years. Oops, 23 years. So that means you could spend about $43,000 every year to the end of your life. Now, of course, right now, 43 divided by 12 months. 12 months. So about $3,600 every month. In California, that's very good. You have very good life with $3,600. Very good. Okay. Now, of course, right now, this is excellent, right? $3,600 a month. Very good life in California. 23 years from now, it won't be the same. It'll be much less. Okay. But we're only trying to use present values moving forward. Okay. I don't want to have to start discounting, doing future values and discounting. That gets too hard. Okay. But right now, this would be very good if you're male. But let's say you're a female. Let's say you're a woman. Okay. And again, you retire with $1 million. And today, women are living, many women live into their 80s. Many women live into their 80s. 90 is not too much. I've met a few women in their 90s, but not too many. Not too many. But you want to play it safe. And you figure, well, I'm a young woman, so I might hit 100. Let's say you're 67, okay? You think I'm female, and I want to make sure my money lasts until I'm 100, just in case I make 100, because I'm a woman. And it is possible, but it's very unlikely. But you want to play it safe. So 100 minus 67 gives you 33 years in retirement. Okay, so you take $1 million, divided by 33 years. That would give you about $30,000 a year, divided by 12 months. They give you about $2,500 to spend every month from age 67 until age 100. Okay. Now, $2,500 a month will give you a pretty good lifestyle telephone. Not great, but pretty good. Pretty good. And again, right now, this would be pretty good. 33 years from now, it won't be that great. Okay. But we're just trying to use present values. Yeah, we're not using future values and we're not discounting. We don't know what inflation is going to look like in the future. If you have the money invested, if you have the money, $1 million invested, it will continue to grow, and your income in the future could be greater than this if your investments grow. Okay, but just this kind of a ballpark figure of how it works. Okay, okay. So we're gonna do one more slide. Okay, last slide. How are you doing so far? And how do you think you will do? Let's see. Let me add this part. So how are you doing so far up to now in terms of your income statement, meaning how much net income you have? Your balance sheet, which is your assets minus liabilities. And your net worth. Okay, how are you doing so far? And how do you think you will do in the future? Let's see, do 10 years from now. 40 years from now. Okay. So that's it. Okay. So, in terms of your income statement, in your early part of your career, you're going to make less money because you're young and you just finished college, you gain some experience in that. But over time, eventually you'll get to the, right now, the income mode in California is probably 2,000, meaning that most people are probably making about 2,000. Okay. And then the median, meaning the people right in the middle, the median income in California is probably about 3,000. That means most people are making between 2 to 3 to 4,000. That's probably like 2/3 of California. Okay, and the average is about 5,000 a month after taxes. But again, the average is very skewed because we have a lot of wealthy people in California. Not only Mark Zuckerberg, but we have a lot of wealthy people in California, and we have a lot of high income earners. Like nurses are making about 100,000 a year. Doctors are making on average about 20,000 a month. Okay. So those high income people skew the average north up, from a mean of 3,000 to probably about 5,000 a month after taxes. Okay. So how are you doing in terms of your net income right now, and your balance sheet? How do you feel about your balance sheet, your assets minus your liabilities? Okay. And your net worth. How are you doing? I can tell you when I was your age, my net worth was like minus $20,000. Okay. I did have some assets. I had a car and had some clothing. I had quite a few books because my books were my tools. With my books, with my studies, I was able to get scholarships. And with my scholarship money, I would make it from year to year. So my books were like my tools because I didn't have to go to a library to do research. I just open my books and do my research using my books. This is before the internet, of course. Okay. And so how are you doing so far? My income statement when I was your age was not that good. To be honest with you, my balance sheet was not that good, and my net worth was actually minus $20,000. It's very, yeah, it's very shameful thing to say, but it's the truth. And then, how do you think that you will do 10 years from now, or 40 years from now, or 40 years from now, 40 years from now? Okay, and tell me about it, right? You know, most people in the world are not making $1,000 a month. So for most people in the world, unless they can inherit like a house or properties or something, they're not going to do it because there's not enough money to do it. They just live, live and die, basically. Okay, and most people in the world, their dreams will not become true. They will not come true because there's not enough money for them to have their dream life. Okay. But in a rich country like the United States or a rich region like California, it is possible. Right? It is possible for you to become a millionaire, and it is possible to have your dreams come true. Probably not all your dreams, okay? That's probably not realistic. Not every dream. Not everything that you dream will come true, but most, if not many, of your dreams can come true in a rich country like California, or a country like the United States, or rich region like California. Okay, enough said. Let me say this one more time. Okay. Well, it's good. Good having you in class. I enjoyed it very much meeting you and speaking with you, especially Mustakim and Van. I wish you the best of luck. Have a great quarter break, and stay safe. Enjoy this warm, dry weather. Okay, because the Mustakim said Florida is also very warm, but it's also very hot, sticky, and muggy. So enjoy this warm, dry weather. Have a great break, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.